Boom. How are you?
I'm good, bro.
What were we just talking about? What were we just saying?
We went 8 through.
Yeah, so this is the fourth one
Mm-hmm.
that I did this year, or so far, I guess. But yeah, the second thing, which I was curious about your thoughts on, because I know you do a lot too, is like, I feel like I'm almost taking away from music. I feel like everything does, like even like a family time, like I feel like everything takes away from it. But I also know that a lot of things are like, music is life, but life isn't just music. So like, thinking about your 85-year-old self or whatever, and like they're gonna want you to do more than just one thing.
Yeah.
But you can also get lost in chasing every creative, you know what I mean, rabbit that runs around, instead of just like locking in on the focus. But I feel like, I don't know, something I think I'm trying to navigate with regards to creative balance for it. But yeah.
What do I think about that?
Sure.
Kind of what we were talking about earlier. I think for me, what made it a lot easier and like got the weight off my shoulders is writing down exactly what it is that I want and working backwards from there. And so, for example, like, and this changed over the course of time, of course. So like when I first started making music almost 6 years ago, it was very much so like, oh, I'm gonna be like, nobody's ever rapped like me before. I'm gonna come with a new sound. I'm gonna be filling arenas. And then I realized, throughout the course of the 6 years, that I really, like, a lot of that stuff was derived from my perception of the end results of other people's journeys. And so, like, and that's, of course, like, that's part of the marketing that labels, like, specialize in utilizing. And so, like, when we see Travis Scott or we see Drake and we see Kendrick in their, what is considered, like, their final form, where they're, like, at the peak, right? Or at the top of the charts, or at the top of their game. Like, so much goes into that, and so much sacrifice goes into that in other aspects of their lives, where I have to I then ask myself, like, am I willing to give up, like, my true core values that I've had since I was a kid, which is, like, big on family time. Again, with relationship, am I gonna wanna be a 35, 45-year-old bachelor, or am I gonna wanna be, like, a family man, an example as a father, husband, etc., like down the road.
Yeah.
So then I had to be okay with, like, maybe I'm not gonna get certain accolades or have certain external validation with these metrics, but it's okay. Like, I'm okay with that. And so when it comes to, like, creative pursuits in particular, I have dreams of, and like already writing scripts for, like, sitcoms, for example. Like, just the pure act of doing that and me being able to have time carved out in my day to get that done is a win already in my book.
Sure.
So, like, anything that comes from that is almost like like extra seasonings, or like the cherry on top. Like, if there's any type of monetary gain from that. And so, and the other thing is, like, if I do want to make a living wage with music, for example, then I have to be willing to do what everybody else that makes a living wage is willing to do. So then I have to ask myself, am I willing to do that every day? Which is, like, get off my ass and go and network in studios, suck up to people in the industry.
Do you think that's the only way, though?
That's not the only way, but
it's tried and true.
It's possibilities versus probabilities. That's the way I view things.
Okay.
So it's like, anything is possible, of course, but I'm still gonna be, like, centered around probability and what's realistic. It's almost like, Steph Curry, could he be an all-star if he didn't work? If he worked half as hard as he does, could he be an all-star? Of course. Could he be a champion? Of course. Could he be? Yeah. But, like, he's doing the things every day that lead to, like, at least increase his chances. And so that's my point. It's like, yes, of course, there's always going to be exceptions to the rule. Of course, there's always going to be anomalies of somebody who has been making music for a month. They drop a song on TikTok and it blows up and their life changes. But that's one person out of this. It's like, again, that was just what the universe had in store for them. But I'm also a proponent of, like, if you're doing the same thing and not getting results, then obviously something's not adding up. So, yes, can your 67 TikTok blow up? And can you become famous after that? Can you make a living wage and be fulfilled? Of course. But again, are you going to make 670 more TikToks at the expense of everything else you value in life? I'm not willing to do that.
Right.
Like, I'm going to control what I can control and go from there.
I think that's the trickiest part, is that idea. Everyone says balance, it's all about balance, but it's like, there's no course on balance in school. There's ultimately your frame of balance is either your parents, like your friends, or your mentors. But I feel like ultimately it's something you create, and that comes from, like you said, self-awareness and having that intention and that vision for what you want your life to look like, and then taking the steps within your control to create that. The tricky part is when you're like you said, not seeing results, and you don't know if the steps you're taking are getting you in that direction.
Yeah.
But then also, like you said, that stuff has to be the cherry on the top. The cake has to be the doing of the thing.
Yeah. And like we've talked about many times, I think once you reach a certain threshold, whether it's 10,000 hours, that's a common phrase, but like once you reach a certain threshold and you have that skill set of mastery, especially relative to everybody else in the field, I think that's very important. It's like, once you have that skill set, then you might have to focus, then focus on your skill set of marketing, or focus on your skill set of, networking that's not necessarily transactional, but at least has a purpose in it. Like that's a skill set as well. Like,
right.
And some people are naturally better at that. That's why you see like some people end up in these crazy situations, but they're just naturally like people like them more. It's fine. It's like the same way somebody like comes out 6'7" and they have a better chance of making the NBA. It's like everybody comes, genetically comes out with certain advantages, and then on top of that, I'm sure it's compounded by their environment growing up. Which, I mean,
for better or worse, because there's different. I don't know. It's interesting, right? Like you have different approaches, I guess, based on what you know, and I think until you're exposed to other things, like. But yeah, there's like a Shaq quote. I think I told you this. But like he's like, or no, it wasn't a Shaq quote. Someone said this about Shaq. Like, if I'm this tall and I was born with these certain abilities, it's not unfair that I use them to flourish in the sport of basketball and then leverage that to whatever he wants to do, music, Shaq-verse, you know what I mean? Like
exactly.
The countless opportunities he's created. And it's like, use your strengths, double down on your strengths, or the opportunities or the abilities or blessings that you do have, and then obviously like continue to refine. But yeah, that's true. How do you think you find those strengths? Just by like trying and like.
Yeah, I think people know what they're good at, bro. I think a lot of people are honest with themselves. Are not honest with themselves.
What do you mean?
For example, if somebody's, making music, for example, making songs, making music, and because I see this a lot ever since like putting my stuff out there and just being cognizant of other people releasing music. I think if you're putting out music and the market's telling you that they don't like your music, meaning like you're not getting positive feedback from your friends, and then secondly, people that aren't your friends.
Right.
And then, people aren't sharing your music, people aren't checking for you, you're even anonymous folks on, when you push it on YouTube or you run a Facebook ad or you run a Spotify ad or something like that, and people aren't responding well, you have to be honest with yourself and realize like, oh, maybe I'm not where I want to be. Whereas I think, again, when it comes back to that, people listening to the end product of somebody doing really well and then trying to take that mindset. So what I see a lot is like people like, oh no, I know I'm the best. Like I know they haven't caught up.
Right.
That's cool. Like, and that's what I'm saying. Like if you truly believe that, then you shouldn't even worry about the results. Because if you truly believe that, but I honestly think that people confuse that with confuse delusion with confidence. I see a lot of that these days. People confuse delusion with confidence and vice versa.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
It's almost like and again, like I grew up playing sports, playing basketball, running track. So like, a lot of things I tie back to basketball. If you're not getting playing time, it's because, assuming you didn't do something egregious on the team to sever a relationship with the coach or your teammates. If you're not getting playing time, it's because you suck. It's because you're not good enough.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that, because if you were scoring 20, 25, you were facilitating, dropping all these assists and stuff like that, and people like playing with you, you would probably find yourself in the rotation getting minutes.
No, I agree. I think it's really easy to be like, the coach doesn't like me, or like, it's so easy to do that. It's so easy to victimize yourself instead of just being like, okay, maybe I'm not good enough. So I do think it's like, bro, I'm the best, bro. I'm the best on this team, but it's like, but I'm getting 0 minutes, and I'm not putting work in outside regular practice.
Exactly.
So, well, that's why I think also, like, you have to enjoy the thing. You have to love the thing, because if I'm doing like badminton or whatever, I'm not gonna put the extra time in. I don't care. You know what I mean? Yeah. But like, if it's something you love, I also feel like it helps finding people who love it, because then you kind of create that ecosystem of like steel sharpening steel.
Right.
But yeah, that makes sense.
And before I forget, because I was just having a conversation with like my really good, Serge from Dallas. Like one thing we had like a 3-hour combo on Sunday morning. It was awesome because we hadn't caught up in a while. But one thing that we were talking about is every moment, every day, every minute, every hour, like people do what they want. Like I don't like that's such a simplified version of, or a simplified way of putting it, but like people really do what they want. So, if you're not in shape, or like not in the shape you want to be in, right? It's because you're waking up and you're not wanting to go to the gym, or you're wanting to stay on the sofa, or you're wanting to eat this type of food. Like it's your actions are a reflection of what you truly want and desire. And so again, like what I'm saying is, I guess to the original question of like how do you know where to put your time, is like, you know what you want. And if you truly get enjoyment out of making a better song than what you consider was your best song last week, then again, that should kind of be the end all be all for your fulfillment. Because if not, then you have too many external validation. You want other people to tell you, oh yeah, this is fire, stuff like that. So I see. So like that's why I say, like I feel like I do have a regimen because I have long-term goals. Like I'm trying to remember who said this, but essentially said that like people that are billionaires or top athletes, they think in terms of decades. They don't think in terms of short. They don't have short-term goals. They're thinking like 10 years down the road. So that's why I have such a strict routine, because I know like those little wins every day.
Laying the bricks.
Laying the bricks, exactly, brick by brick. And so I know those are going to add up to a long-term win, as opposed to, again, like external validation. I just keep going back to internal validation versus external validation, because I think it's just also just the rabbit hole of social media, because of the dopamine hits that we get from likes and comments. People are so attached to that that's why they want to perform, and that's why they want to accomplish something so that they can post about it, or at least like so other people who follow them can say, "Oh, good job."
Yeah, well, it's like, I think it's multifaceted, right? Because everyone wants to feel good, and I feel like you feel a sense of pride when you do hard things.
Of course.
And to show that you did a hard thing is just it's cool, because then you earn respect from other people.
That's true.
But to do the thing, there's this quote. It was like, practice in private, or public praise comes from practice in private, or something like that. And it's like,
sound like the PPPP loan.
Right. Yeah. Although alliteration makes it sound good.
Yeah.
But like, I think that's that. It's right. It's like, I'm not signing up for the public praise. If it comes, it's great.
Yeah.
Which is so hard to do. We're wired to like fit in and to get approval from others, especially I feel like creatives or like artists or kids that lean into trying to be on stage in whatever way. It's like, either I'm fulfilling a need I didn't feel like I got, or I was rewarded for acting a certain way. I'm gonna double down on that and try to like do that full time. So I think it's all these things, but I think it can get hard too, not seeing the results, and then like you said, seeing what other people are doing. But all right, so take me back to like young Marcus, like growing up in Tucson, what's that like? And then how you feel like you got from, I don't know, like, because you said, yeah, I feel like there's evolutions, right? How did that unfold? What was that process like? Becoming where you're at now mentally.
First and foremost, I think I like the phrase that I feel like I walk with all the time is that everybody's a byproduct of their environment. And so from the jump, despite the environment I was in, which is south side of Tucson, not a lot of folks were going to college, a lot of working class folks, not really high paying jobs that they had. So even though that was my environment outside of the household, within my household, my parents were together until I was about like 3 or 4 years old, but I had a lot of reinforcement and confidence building from those two. So my mom, from the jump, instilled in me that I could do anything I wanted to do, just as long as I tried my best. Like that was like the end all be all with her. My dad was a little different, where he was a little more critical, but in a long-term healthy way, because he was kind of always telling me like there are no participation trophies. Like if you're not winning the basketball game, you're losing. Like it's very binary. And so I'm actually super grateful for that, because it just taught me like there are winners and losers, and it made my transition to adulthood a lot easier, because I think a lot of times with this participation trophy culture, people become adults and the real world hits them in terms of like having to pay bills, having to pay rent. And they expect that there's a sense of entitlement that they don't have to do anything and the world's going to take care of them. When we know that just through human nature, like you have to, you eat what you kill. Like there is no, like, of course there's a sense of community, but at our true core of like, human to human interaction, a lot of it is, winners, losers, resource allocation based on who's winning the game of life at the time. So because he instilled that in me early, I had, do whatever you want, just do your best, but at the same time, like you are striving for that top spot. And so that's why whether it was school, like even, where in childhood do you want me to start? 'Cause there's so many layers to like.
Were you an only child?
Yeah, so I grew up an only child.
So you feel like that philosophy was just kind of honed in, and you were kind of like I feel like if I had one kid, it's almost like, first of all, you have no trial run, no parent knows what they're doing because they haven't done it before. Not that a second or third or fourth kid is gonna end up better necessarily, but do you feel like there's that sense of like responsibility, like, hey, it's up to me kind of to make the most of the sacrifices my parents gave for me? And then I guess like, how did that mentality that you're talking about manifest, like you said, in school, playing sports, etc., like with regards to goals at a young age as you started growing up?
Yeah, one thing I didn't mention earlier is like my parents were super young when they had me. So my mom had me she had just turned 18, had me, and my dad was 19 at the time. And so again, like both of them, they did end up finishing, I think my dad ended up finishing high school, my mom didn't finish high school. But again, they were like they were willing to work and stuff like that. So I saw that pretty early on, like going to work. That was like my immediate reality, I guess. And I, after they split up and I was living with my mom, my mom was willing to take a second job, third job to get the things around the house. Like if we wanted, or I should say, if she wanted like tile in the new house that we were living in, like she was gonna take a second job, or she did take a second job at Blockbuster, or like a carniceria, or like not a carniceria. She took a second job at a restaurant on the south side just so that she could have extra cash in order to like invest in making the house nicer and stuff like that. So I saw that early on. And in terms to answer your question about like responsibility, I think because my mom and dad had me around other adults, like their friends, because they were young, they had me around other young people, and I was able to realize like, oh shoot, like they're always struggling, or like I saw my older cousins, or I saw my older aunts and uncles, like they're fighting with like they're fighting with their spouse, not like physically, but like they're arguing a lot.
For sure.
This is unhealthy, or they're struggling financially, and I'm just looking around and I'm realizing like nobody is making it out of like our neighborhood and going and doing things that allows them to actually like live without stress. Like I noticed that at a super young age. So, and then of course on top of that, you know, being darker skinned, growing up in a predominantly Hispanic area, even though I'm half Mexican, I still was like labeled like the black kid. So I've always identified as black. And so when I was looking again on screen, because this is the 90s, this is early 2000s, when I'm looking on screen, the people with money, they either play sports, they make music, or throughout the course of life, I met people who were doctors, lawyers, worked in some type of financial field. And so that, because I was small growing up and because nobody had ever made it out of Tucson making music, the only possibility for me at a young age was like, okay, I gotta go hard on school. Like that is my opportunity to not live paycheck to paycheck and
to
live
be
under
like
the
what
stress.
you saw.
Yeah, exactly. And to like get and to see past this neighborhood of Tucson.
So what? Okay, I'm curious. What made you think the goal was to live differently than what you saw? Because most people see what they see as what is and don't entertain the possibility of an alternative. You know what I mean? They don't think, oh, like you even said, no one was making it out of Tucson as if that's the goal, but like, why was that the goal? How did that, you know what I mean?
Because I saw my mom work multiple jobs. I saw kind of like how big our house was compared to, so she was a dental anesthesiologist, office manager. And so going to like work parties, I would say, or like work celebrations, where I would see kind of like how big like a anesthesiologist crib was, and then kind of comparing it to us, I was kind of trying to put the pieces together. And I knew that my mom, like we had a budget for a lot of stuff. So, you know, if I wanted a toy, and it's good that she like taught me all this, like, you know, just don't spend money frivolously. But like if I wanted a toy, or if, you know, I noticed that we didn't go on vacation, but I had friends, or like when we go to those parties, people would be talking about going on vacation. So like all that stuff, I'm just kind of documenting in my head, okay, like they're able to do that, but we're not, why not? And so like I had to always stay curious, and on top of that, like I said, like I cannot value like the perspective I got from watching certain shows, like Full House, Fresh Prince, Family Matters. A lot of those were instrumental in me understanding like the possibilities and also like my moral compass.
If she's only working at Blockbuster, you're not going to be going to the work parties. You're not going to be seeing the big house. You're not going to be hearing those conversations.
A good point. Yeah.
So it's like almost just these small things that you were able to connect the dots for. And then you also made a good point, which is like, I had to stay curious.
Mm-hmm.
Like, school does not teach you to stay curious.
Yeah.
They say, shut up, put your head down, and listen to what we say.
Yeah.
And if you listen the best, you get I mean, obviously, I'm curious your thoughts on that too, because I feel like you understood that was a game to play, and if you could win that game, there was, like you said, a way out.
Not until later, but sure.
Okay.
Not until later in life. So I need to say something else that my mom did that changed the trajectory of my life early when I was 4 years old, because I think this is a hack for any parent out there that wants their kid to have options growing up. When we were in the car, my mom was driving, I'm in the back seat. I was 4 years old, my mom started doing multiplication tables with me. So she'd ask me, what's 2 times 2? 4. What's 2 times 8? 16. And eventually I got to the point where I was doing like, you know, typical 9 by 9, 81, stuff like that. And I was 4 years old. So by the time I entered kindergarten, in the south side of Tucson, I was almost seen as like this genius kid, just because I was ahead in math, and then also like I was starting to read. So there's a story where I walked into class I don't know if it was the first day of class or it was orientation, but I walked in and it was like a Tuesday, and she had like a chart of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's kindergarten, and it said today is Monday, and I think I looked up and I said, nah, today's Tuesday. And she was the teacher like couldn't believe that I could read, and then 2, that I knew that what day of the week it was. So like, again, it was... And
you were willing to say something.
Exactly.
I feel like how many people are
that's
hey, she's wrong, but I don't want to get in trouble for saying the teacher's wrong. Like, I need to fall in line. Like,
but that's what I'm saying. Like, my parents are very outspoken, each of them in their own ways. My mom my mom tends to be a little more quiet in public settings initially, but like when she's comfortable, she's very outspoken. She does not hold her tongue. And my dad is just all the time very outspoken. So like, that's why I say everybody's a byproduct of their environment.
Right.
And so, you know, of course, like the bad comes with the good, but for my case, the good was like, it just worked out exactly how it was supposed to in my particular environment. And so from that, you know, I was always ahead in elementary school, and so even in like second grade, I was moved up to third grade classes.
Oh, wow.
For like half of the week, and then I would go back to second grade, so I would still like have the interaction with people my age. Then I transferred schools, and that was again like a paradigm shift, just because it was a completely different neighborhood. And that's when I started kind of dealing with bullying a little bit. Again, just being like 8, 9, 10 years old, the darker skinned kid in a predominantly Hispanic area, even though, like I said, I have a Mexican last name, I have a Mexican mom, like I didn't speak Spanish, I look black, more so than Mexican, and so like a lot of bullying. So like that's where I think I started to find my voice even more, because I was very confident in the classroom, but I was kind of sheltered from, I would say, like tense or negative social interactions up until middle school. Like my mom did a really good job of, again, making a sacrifice, and she was never, you know, she went to work and she came home and watched me. There was no like, oh, I need to go hang out with my friends as a 22-year-old mom, as a 24-year-old mom. I need to go hang out with my friends. I need validation from all these guys. Like, it was never that after my parents broke up. Like, she was always home, which, like, again, it's just, her priority was me. And so, again, that responsibility was like, I learned very early, like, the least I could do is, you know, pay attention in school and do my homework when I get home. And, like, be a good kid.
It's so funny. It's like, you know, like the saying, like monkey see, monkey do. Like, if a parent's saying, like, don't smoke cigarettes, but they're smoking cigarettes.
Man.
So it's like, she doesn't even have to say, do well in school.
Right.
By seeing her dedication and investment in you, you start to say, oh, I'm worthy of, like, oh, I'm capable. Oh, I know this math. Right?
Exactly.
She's starting to build confidence in you, and then you're just going to build on that, and that momentum's just going to grow, as opposed to you see her, like you said, like coming home late, or like never there, or whatever it is. Like, maybe that takes you down a different path or whatever.
Yeah, and I just realized, like, my parents never drank in front of me growing up. They never smoked in front of me. Excuse me. I feel like that's something that I didn't even realize was a thing until I got to high school. Like, parents will, like, have wine on, like, a weeknight, and, like, you don't realize, like, again, like you said, like, the environment and behavior, like, your kid is just going to be a reflection of that. They're either going to, like, lean in and think that's not that bad, or they're going to be completely attached, but, like, you are setting an example nonetheless. And so, never saw them smoke, I never saw them drink. And, you know, like, again, my dad was super active. He was playing basketball growing up, and he was also very outspoken and confident around his friends. So, like, I naturally got that from him, and my mom was always super respectful and polite to people, and I felt like I got that from her, just personality-wise, instead of more so than, like, habits and behaviors, but, like, just personality-wise, like, that was the essence of their personality, and that's what I picked up on growing up, and I just felt like I had just a great combo.
It's interesting, too, because, like, 18, 19, how old are you in 4th grade? Like,
9,
10.
Yeah.
So they're not even 30 yet.
Oh, no.
They're late 20s when you're 9, 10. So it's like, they're still becoming adults in some ways. Obviously, 18, you're legally an adult, but, like, you know, it's really like what, like 30s, 40s is maybe, obviously, like the transition from childhood to adult. 20s for sure, but, like, it's almost like they grew up fast, and then they decided to take that responsibility of being a parent, instead of what is realistically sometimes more common when you're a young parent, is like neglecting that and be like, oh, I'm still young, I'm trying to have fun, whatever. Like, where do you think they got that from, or what, like?
Oh man, this is, again, byproduct of their environment. My dad's adopted, and so that's why my last name's is a Mexican last name. So he grew up in a Mexican-American household, but again, he's also looking black. So he had to go through this in the 70s, 80s, grow up like black and predominantly Hispanic area. So we had those.
In Tucson too?
In Tucson, yeah.
Okay.
And so I think for him, when it comes to basketball and being outspoken, it was just like a response, like a flight or fight response, where it got to, like, he also went through bullying growing up. And so I think for him, he realized like once he got to high school, like he needed to fight to protect himself. He needed community. So like that's why I think he kind of became a little bit more outspoken, and like, he was friends with the popular guys as well. Like, they were popular guys at school. And then, but I'm pretty sure like my dad was still like, growing up and like making sure. Yeah. But, and then I would say my mom, for her, just a lot of just typical Southside story. I don't want to, tell their business too much.
Sure.
But like just what you expect growing up on like, lower socioeconomic part of town, just all the problems that come with that, and then just having to adapt. So I think that's where they got it from. But like I said, I don't want to get into their business. I don't think that's fair to them. But that's where they got that. And then even for me, like just going along the storyline, my dad got, and he's very open about this part. So like my dad got into some trouble by the time I was turning like 10, about to go into middle school. And so he was away for a little bit, and it kind of, so simultaneously while that was happening, I then went to a middle school where like the 8th graders were damn near being initiated to gangs and like kind of acting on that. Even though these are like 13-year-old kids, like, for example, my 7th grade ceramics partner ended up getting like shot and killed, and he had a kid already and had another kid on their way. So like, it was just that type of environment. But I was also like in this secluded, like gifted and talented education program for like the kids that cared about school in that particular neighborhood. And so once I got there, and I was like always really small compared to everybody else in school. So like as a 6th grader, like my charisma, my mouth, whatever you want to call it, like got me in trouble like pretty early into 6th grade. Like I got in fights, like only fight I've ever lost was in 6th grade. And it kind of just like woke me up to the realities, because I realized that, okay, like I do X, then Y happens. Like I think that's when I started to really understand like consequences of my decisions. Because like I wasn't getting bullied, responded, and then, got beat up. It was more so like I was being annoying and the kid checked me.
Right.
And again, like my dad was away, so I didn't really have that father figure in the household at that particular time, so I kind of had to grow up myself. And so, along that, I was going to also like a Boys and Girls Club, where I was starting to get exposed to like drugs, like I said, people being initiated into gangs, thinking they're in gangs even if they're not, and vice versa, they're actually in gangs and like acting on it. And as a result, I just kind of like became more, and I'm like, accessing the internet, so I'm seeing what's happening. Like I remember Soulja Boy was coming up, and that's like, those moments are important because like I'm seeing Atlanta culture, I'm seeing New York culture, I'm seeing LA culture, because I hadn't traveled at all growing up. So I'm just realizing like, okay, there's life outside of this, there are consequences to my actions, and like I need a voice for myself, because a lot of people would call me nerd or some stuff like that, and I was literally just minding my business. Like I was like the smart kid that was respectful, and like everybody knew that. But again, like sometimes dudes that were trying to be hard, be tough, like would try you, you know what I mean? And so like you still had to stick up for yourself, or maybe be witty in your response, or like, make alliances with them, or have them rock with you. And so I was kind of like the funny, smart kid in middle school, where I didn't really have, and I started playing basketball, so like I didn't really have problems like that. But I started to see other people have problems and why they had problems. And so I just that was another reason why like I just kept my nose in the bush, because I knew that I didn't want a life where I was gonna always have to defend myself or be keeping my head on a swivel, because I saw like my cousins, or I saw my friends that, again, they were probably seeing that in the household, or the older siblings or cousins or older friends that they looked up to act like that. And so they felt like they had to do this in middle school, and then I could already tell like our paths were starting to deviate. Like I was going on something that's gonna get me out of the situation, and they were going down a road where it's gonna continue the cycle. And so like I picked that up in middle school, honestly. So that's why, I mean, that was a lot of like the impetus behind me wanting to do well in school. It was like, it was just a way out, or a way to leave all that drama and like endless bad cycles. to the side because like I said, I'm seeing my cousins that I grew up with starting to make bad decisions and it affecting their pockets.
Maybe your dad not being there was like, maybe that's not what I want to do.
That's exactly what happened. My dad had a job at the bank, ended up trying to make quick money and spent some time as a result locked up because of it. And I said, there's no way that I'm ever gonna touch that side of life.
The story like you told yourself from that is that's not the right. Like you could have told your story like that's sick, that's dope, right? Like I mean, there's countless movies where like that's
glorified,
yeah. So it's like, but you interpreted that as no, that path obviously doesn't make sense.
Because I saw the web of consequences that spread throughout our family. Not just me, not just my mom, but how it affected everyone in the family. And how, that happening and putting pressure on my mom to make sure we're good, then affects her relationship with other people because now she doesn't have time for that. It's like, it's a domino effect. And so I just didn't, and I think I'm realizing this now, like in this current moment, is like, because my thesis is everybody's a byproduct of their environment, I always wanted to be a positive experience for people, or at least an inspiring experience for people, instead of making life harder for other people by my mere presence.
Okay.
So what I mean by that is like, I want my actions and I want the way I treat people to be a net positive instead of a net negative.
Yeah. And you saw a lot of that net negative.
In that particular moment, yes. And I want to be clear about that. Like it was that particular time turning point. At least like I'm not trying to say like my dad, like oh my god, my dad, because my dad's been great. It's just more so like that moment was instrumental in shaping the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm. So then you dive into, like you said, you put your head in the books, and then sports. Like, were you considering making music around this time? Like you're in middle school.
Yeah.
Like, what does this look? What is 7th grade Marcus like? And then does he have goals? Does he have dreams? Is Duke on your mind? Is an Ivy like, or is it I just want to get out? I just want to maybe go to college in another state. Like,
so in elementary school, I actually used to do musicals. And I used to, so like that was my intro. So I did musicals. I did musicals in like 3rd and 4th grade. And around that same time, my tia, who's my aunt, my mom's sister, she's 14 years older than me, so she's practically like an older sister than me. She was teaching at Marana High School. She was teaching dance, so that's like on the outskirts of Tucson. She was teaching dance, and she would put on this Tucson hip hop show. And so I wanted to do it, but she also like pushed me to do like 3 shows back to back to back. So I think
it was a dance show or is it?
Yeah, it's primarily like a dance show. But so the first year, I think I was in 3rd or 4th. I think I might have been 3rd grade, 4th grade. I did a dance with my next door neighbor, and that was the first time I felt like the reaction from the crowd. Like, oh my god, like he's so cute, blah blah blah. Yeah. Like, cause there was a bunch of high school students and me. Like that was pretty much the show. And then second time I did like a poem, and then third time, funny enough, I actually acted as Kanye West in a Gold Digger dance. But I was like rapping along. There's video on YouTube. You can probably put it up right here. And so like I kind of was lip syncing to Gold Digger, dressed as Kanye when he wore
the shades, the
suit jacket and the jeans.
Okay.
So like the button up, the suit jacket, and the jeans. He was like one of the first people to do that. Around like 05, 06, like him, Zac Efron, and High School Musical, like it was around that era. It was like a blazer, a button up, and like jeans. Yeah. So I dressed like that, and like that was my first time really feeling the crowd, the performance aspect of it.
I like this feeling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like, oh my God, Kanye's so cool. Like, this is what he gets to do all the time. Like, this fire. But funny enough, my dad wanted me to do sports and not the creative things. So I think that's where like I kind of, and there was a whole slew of problems with the place I was going to do musicals. So that's another conversation. More so with the personnel, not with like the actual place. They just had certain staff that made things a little awkward and weird. So it was like, nah, I don't want to do something. So then I started playing sports in middle school. And I wasn't like super good, but I was like good enough to make the team and like be playing at lunch and before school and stuff like that. And so like, and I also noticed that girls cared about that. And you also got a little more respect from the boys who weren't in my advanced honors classes.
Right, for sure.
So then it was cool because like, again, like I was a funny, nerdy kid in the gifted classes, but then I was starting to make friends via sports just by like mere proximity with the dudes who like I said, were trying to gangbang, stuff like that, but the relationship with sports, it wasn't, because we're only 11 or 12, it wasn't like, oh, you down with us, like that. I didn't have to worry about that, because they knew what I was about in terms of the classroom. And so, yeah, 7th grade, and then I ended up testing, I ended up going to some like orientation, or no, not orientation, what's the word I'm looking for? I ended up going to like a marketing presentation, I would say, or a presentation in general for this public college prep school that you had to test into in Tucson. And so it was part of the district, but you had to apply to get in.
Was it a new school at the time?
No, it was pretty old, but again, because of where I grew up, there weren't a lot of people that went to that high school because they either couldn't get in because they didn't test high enough, or they would get in and wouldn't be able to last because I'll get into it, but they wouldn't last. And so like there were very few people who had a success story of making it from the South Side, lasting for 4 years at that high school and going on to college. Most people quit.
So did you say, oh, this is a challenge, or did you say, it's probably not likely?
Challenge, and my mom was like, you should do it. And to me, at that point, I've been killing everything in school, so like,
you felt confident?
I felt confident. I was like, I want another challenge, because like, oh, you're not going to tell me that like I'm not smart enough for this school. Like, society's been telling me all this time, and like all I keep doing is getting A's in class and like learning stuff. So
then you get into that school.
I get into that school, bro, and my life changed again. Like it's just another pivot point in the trajectory, because it just opened my world. It was like the best situation I could have, because it wasn't a private school where like, my mom was gonna have to work 2-3 jobs in order to support it. It wasn't a charter school where it's only school with no like social aspect to it, sports aspect. Because I think that's another detriment to a lot of kids. It's like, if they're good in school, they go to these high performing high schools, but then they don't have competitive sports. Like they may have a sports team, but it's not competitive.
They're not well rounded.
No. So what was cool about this high school is that it was on campus with another school, part of the district, like a neighborhood school, part of the district. So the high school I went to was University High School. So you had to test into that. And so a lot
Is that near Ford? Where's that?
It's on 5th and, oh man, you got me tripping. Like 5th and Swan.
So it's not far from the U of A.
No, it's like 10 minutes.
I feel like, it sounds familiar.
Yeah. So we had a lot of our classes. It was funny, like at the time, a lot of the classes were in the basement, and then like there was a regular high school. But the regular high school was like a neighborhood school that, just to be honest, people weren't going there to play sports. People were kind of going there out of proximity.
Sure.
Like, it wasn't one of those magnet schools like Tucson High, you might know, that's also by U of A. Like, people wanted to go to that school because it was fun, because of the sports, because of whatever.
Yeah,
nobody wanted
huge football stadium there.
All of that. Yeah. Nobody wanted to go to recon. We didn't have a crazy football team, didn't have a crazy basketball team, like. So a lot of it was just like purely who was in the neighborhood, or maybe like somebody got kicked out of another school, went to this school. So it was interesting because you had two completely separate groups. You had like brainiac nerds on the way to college, college prep students, and then you had like neighborhood, whoever
all on the same campus.
Yeah, all on the same campus. And so our core classes were separate, but our electives and sports were together, and fine arts programs, so like dance, marching band. Man, people used to go to football games to watch the marching band. It was that bad. Yeah. So like they used to get smoked, and it's cool. Like I had 2 really good friends who played football, but they know that they used to get smoked, and people were there to watch the band go crazy.
That's crazy.
So
did you know going into the school, you're like, I'm going to college. I'm at college prep.
Yes.
I just got to keep doing what I'm doing, and I'm going to go to a good college.
But I didn't know what I thought, which was wrong, but I didn't know any better. I thought if I just graduated from that school, if I just made it to the end, I could go to Harvard, I could go to Stanford. So
why did you think that?
Because of pure ignorance. My mom didn't go to college, my dad didn't go to college. The closest thing that I went to college for real was my aunt, who's 14 years older than me, and she went to a school in state. So again, I think it was just kind of like she did well in school, she finished, and she was able to go to Northern Arizona University.
Yeah.
And so I didn't realize like that I was going to be competing against the rest of the country and the world if I ever wanted to go to somewhere like Harvard, Princeton. And what's crazy is I actually only knew Princeton from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So like that kind of sent me down the internet rabbit hole. I mean, keep in mind, this is like the advent of the internet. Right. For the first time. Like people were starting to have computers in their home, or like kids were starting to have computers in their home and access. It's like MySpace, Facebook era, but not cell phone, iPhone in the hands of teenagers yet. So spent a lot of time on YouTube. Like that was like my entertainment as well. It's like that again just opened up my vantage point of what was possible and what was out there in the world. And so yeah, I mean, you know, my freshman year, this is super pivotal too. My freshman year, I was in an honors biology class, and for the record, like when I got my syllabus for the freshman year, I didn't even know what the word biology meant. So like, keep this in mind. I was a high performing student in my middle school. I didn't even know what the word biology meant when I received my syllabus for my freshman year.
Well, you were proficient in math and reading, it sounds like.
Of course.
It sounds like the sciences were not.
It's
right?
less about that. It's more about like just what we were exposed to in middle school.
Okay.
And maybe you know what?
Biology is still a technical word that probably most elementary school kids aren't throwing around.
Or
science
middle
is
school.
more common, right?
Yeah, science.
You knew science, you didn't understand an aspect of science, but I know what you mean. You still felt like this is another level.
Yeah, and the other thing is that there were a lot of students in my class freshman year. They had gone to private middle school, so they had been exposed. So actually, in my biology class, I would ask so many questions because I wasn't scared to ask. I would ask so many questions, and
would you say because I wasn't scared?
Yeah.
Right, like that to me is so crucial. Like it's most second graders are like, Miss Teacher, you did that wrong. Yeah. Like most kids don't have the, you know what I mean? Like I feel like that's almost like such a cool skill to teaching. And we'll get to this, I guess. But like, what was the? You said 4 songs a week every week, and then you felt like just the challenge of doing it for like, the first quarter, or would you do it for the first half?
We did like first 4 months. I think we finished around my birthday, so like April 20th.
Which is still crazy.
Yeah.
But did you just feel like was part of that maybe preach or like what or?
We'll get to that.
Okay. But all right, so bring back to high school, 9th grade biology.
Yeah, one of again just one of those points that changed the trajectory was I was asking questions pretty often in biology, and a girl turned to me and was just like, "God, why are you so stupid, Marcus?" One of my classmates again came from like a private middle school, Catholic middle school, so she turned and did that, and just there was like. It was shame. It was embarrassment. It was
so it hurt. It wasn't like who is this bitch? It was
no. It was.
It got to you at that time.
It got to me because up until that point, I had always been.
Your identity was I'm smart.
I'm smart.
And some First was this first semester or first year at least.
First year.
First year, some girls like you're not smart, and you're like.
Yeah. So. There was that, and at the same time, I was getting B's and C's at that school. And again, this was new. And there was one class I had difficulty in middle school, and my mom like sat me down and was like, "There's a reason for this, what is it?" I wasn't turning in my work because I was afraid of, it was hard, and I was afraid of the teacher saying, "This is bad." And so like, I didn't turn it in because I didn't want that feeling of, this is bad work, Marcus.
Interesting.
So I learned that in 6th grade, but then when it got to...
You learned in 6th grade, just to kind of like, thought that, you learned in 6th grade, doing it even if it sucks is better than not doing it.
Yeah, and showing up is half the battle.
That's what you learned. Yeah. That was the take.
Because me turning in that one paper turned my grade from a D to like a B+. It was like, okay. You know what I mean? Like I was, because there were probably like 4 or 5 assignments and I didn't do one of them. So that like dropped my grade tremendously. So again, going back to freshman year, I was getting B's and C's, but I was trying, like I was showing up, but I wasn't in hyperdrive.
Why?
And because it was the adjustment. It was teenage years.
It sounds like also your focus went from before it was, you said put your head in the books, I'm avoiding the games and the trouble or whatever, and now there's 2,000 kids.
Sure.
It's a different crowd.
Sure.
And there's sports. It's cooler to kind of fit in with, and so your focus kind of got diverted from tunnel vision to the books almost too.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's definitely a factor. So I would say it was that. It was adjustment because, again, like instead of being at the top, now I was kind of in the middle.
Sure.
Compared to folks that were a little more prepared going into that high school. On top of that, I just passed my mom in height, so I was getting bold in the household. Like I was talking back.
You're a teenager. You're 14, 15.
And it was just me and her at this point. So now it's starting to get to the point where like I'm talking back. I'm trying her, thinking I'm smarter. Like I'm running away, like doing dumb things like leaving the house and not coming back, or coming back when I want to come back. And on top, so then my mom, my dad, mom.
When does he come back into the picture?
My mom, dad, and I, like, it's a fractured relationship from when he's gotten back to, like, he's going through whatever he's going to get back on his feet. And I think that's bleeding into everything, like interpersonal relationships with the three of us. And right before that, also, at the end of my 8th grade, 2008, my sister was born. So my mom and dad have my sister 14 years later, never been married. So, fill in the blanks. We don't gotta get into detail, but like, what I mean? Like,
so you were an only child at the time?
I was the only child up until that point. So my sister was born when I was in 8th grade. Then I start high school. And so again, like, my dad and mom are kind of talking enough, my sister. So but at the same time, they're not living together. Like, my dad's staying at his spot, my mom's staying at my spot, my mom's raising my sister. I'm kind of seeing that. That, of course, I'm sure behind the scenes is creating a certain tension amongst them that's bleeding into the parenting, the co-parenting balance. And so there's like a lot of factors that are going into me starting my freshman year. But like, I'm loving the social side of it, but I'm not, again, I'm not in hyperdrive when it comes to leveling up academically. Right. And that girl saying that to me turned me up because I was just like, oh nah, you're not gonna be able to say that again. I ended up getting an A in biology, like both semesters. I might have got like a super high B the first semester and like an A the second, whatever it was. But like, that was where I learned, okay, I need, like before I used to just be able to go home, do the homework, and I'd get A's. Like now, I need to sacrifice my leisure time in order to.
Why though?
Why?
Like, I think like most kids at that age are thinking like me. I'm like, what am I gonna use this shit? Like, I remember in 9th grade I was in a math class and I asked the teacher and she couldn't give me an answer. And I was like, I just felt so misunderstood. But I think was it part chip on the shoulder, part like
because I like
part I need to get out of Tucson.
I need to get out of Tucson, and I don't want to do manual labor. So like, if I even though I have those thoughts of when am I going to use this? It's like I didn't have an alternative for a better life, because the alternative was, okay, I don't do well in school. Yeah, I can own my own business like some people I know, or I could like do manual labor, but I don't want to do manual labor. I'd rather be able to like have the respect and prestige of going to the school, being a doctor, being a lawyer. Like, I still didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew like I wanted that type of respect. And so I knew like it was a means to an end.
Okay.
It wasn't like I honestly didn't
That makes
care.
sense then.
And because like I was just naturally curious, so I was like, it's something new I can learn. So I started seeing it that way. It's like, this will just expand I wasn't saying this back then, but
you enjoyed learning.
I enjoyed like knowing stuff that I wasn't using to like throw in people's face, but like if it came up in convo, I enjoy like knowing a little bit about the topic.
Sure.
Because then like, especially with science, like then I could speak to my mom's boss at the time, like about what I'm learning. Because he was a good adjacent example where it's like, we never kicked it with him, but like when I would see him in the office, when I would go to work with my mom and just be kicking it in the summer in the back, because my high school was 5 minutes from her office. Like, I knew he was making good money. I didn't know to what extent because I'm 14 years old, but like, I knew he was like driving a good car, he had an office, like he was respected in Tucson, like I knew all those things.
But so you sacrifice leisure time.
Yeah.
To then double down on school, and then ninth grade, then you start picking it up.
10th grade was also difficult. Like I had a 7 a.m. AP chemistry class that, bro, I still don't know how. I mean, I made it because of my friends. Like there was like 5 of us that made a pact to do the class. Some of them were probably pressured by their parents, but like it was 7 a.m. and I lived 35 minutes away, so I was choosing to get up.
You chose to do that.
I chose to take that class because I knew. Primarily, it was a challenge, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, I'm not doing that." I was like, "Man, I'll do it."
That's so cool, though.
Yeah. And then, secondly, because I knew it would increase my chance of getting into a good college. I didn't know why, but I knew that it would, and I heard people talk about that. I heard older kids talk about, "Take this class, get cool with this teacher." This is what the kids are doing if they want to go to this class, that class. This college, that college. So that was like sophomore year. While this is happening, I'm playing basketball for the school. Freshman year, I'm playing basketball. Still, looking back, I don't know what it was. I try to take massive accountability in my life. I don't know if it was because I punched a kid at practice, because he was talking crazy to me, and I wasn't going to take the disrespect, because, Southside tendencies come in. I don't know if it was because my dad was like a vocal parent on the sideline. I don't know why, but even though I was playing for a club team, and I won't say getting scouted, but like starting to have conversations with D3 coaches about like, if you put in work, like you have potential. I got cut from JV, not varsity, JV my sophomore year. And that's when I first got introduced to politics. And I understood that in the real world, there were different rules for me versus my white counterparts, because I would see me do something, or I see my best friend who's black, he would get upset at a play, and he wouldn't be able to play the rest of the game. There was another kid on the team where his brother was on the staff, and he would act out, he would act crazy, he'd kick a chair, and he'd be starting the next game.
Damn.
So it was, again, like, that's life. But at the time, it's hard because, I'm 14, 15 years old, and I'm putting in this work, and, they're just different rules. And so it got to a point, and on top of that, I was a strategic player. I was contributing to winning objectively, but I wasn't like flashy, or I wasn't scoring 10, 20 points. That wasn't my game. It was like setting people up, playing defense, making a smart play. So my dad, actually going into my sophomore year, so this is 2009, summer, my dad and I got a lot closer. This is probably the closest we've been up until this point, outside of like me being a kid, because of all the friction of him going away, coming back, and not being in the household. He starts waking me up at 5 a.m., 6 a.m., and we're going to the rec center, and I'm starting to play basketball. I'm starting to train in the mornings, and then play basketball with grown men on the weekends.
This is after your cut?
So this is before I'm cut. This is going into my sophomore year.
Okay.
So like I'm starting to like get acclimated to like being an actual basketball player, and then I get cut. So that's like I'm almost like, yo, I was doing what I had to do, got cut. Ended up getting back on the team. This is my sophomore year, and then after basketball season, my sophomore year, I keep training more. With my dad, and it gets to a point where I'm now playing varsity, going into my junior year, summer. So the summer league, varsity, summer varsity. And there's a game where I'm benched the whole first half. Again, he either didn't like me or didn't see the potential, or he just thought other people were better, whatever it was. But in the second half, I come in and I score 16 points. I had never done that before. That was just like a testament of all the work I was doing. And we ended up coming back from down 10 and winning the game. Next game, I get benched like the entire time. While the other kid that just keeps getting chances and chances and chances. And so I'm like, man, it's not worth it. That same summer, I go to LA to hang out with my aunt, because she's living in LA. she's working at the YWCA, and she has some like all girls program, and she has to do an event with them, and I couldn't come with her to work that day. Sometimes I could go to the events if they were going to the pool or something, because I was like 14, 15. So then she asked what I want to do. I said, oh, I want to go to UCLA. Like, again, seen it on Fresh Prince. I want to go to UCLA, check out the campus. I went on a tour. At the time,
You're in 9th grade?
I'm pretty sure I'm in, I think I just finished my sophomore year. So I'm in 10th. I'm finishing 10th. So I don't know. I have like a 3.5, 3.6, something like that. Something like mostly A's, couple B's, and then the C's from freshman year. So then I'm talking to people, and you know how high school kids are, especially in that.
Talking to people
on the tour
on orientation, gotcha.
That are a year older than me that are about to apply as seniors,
gotcha.
And they're saying, "Oh yeah, I got a 4.3." I'm like, 4.3? Come on, we're saying with 3 point something. So, bro, I actually ended up changing my schedule after I got back to Tucson. I said, I need to turn this up. Because AP, it's weighted, so you get a higher GPA.
Right.
And I remember hearing that if you take harder classes and they see that, they kind of respect it a little bit more. So, bro, I took, even though we were required to take like 2 or 3 AP classes my junior year, I took 6. And then took a 7th class I didn't need to take.
So out of 7 classes on your schedule, 6 of them are AP?
5 of them are AP.
Damn.
Yeah. And my senior year I took 6, but I just went beast mode, bro. Like going into my junior year, I was upset about the basketball thing, but I was also moving with intention and gratitude as well, because now I could actually compete, and I know that it wasn't me. Like I'm sure it was some politics, or even if they had an issue with the way I play, like nobody on that staff ever came and sat me down and said, this is why. They were just cold with it, and the treatment was different for my white counterparts. And my dad even called him a racist in the meeting. Like there was a whole meeting about it, and what my dad meant was that he had racial bias, which is true, and I still believe that to this day. He's still like that. But again, like I said, I realized like, okay, if I put in the work here, I'm gonna become a better basketball player. If I put in the work here on grades, I'm gonna get better grades. And so that's when I started to understand like, output equals input. Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, bro, I ended up dating a girl at the same time, which I think like stopped me from chasing what a lot of guys chase in high school. Like because I was with her and she was on top of her stuff when it came to school. Like she came from like a very smart family and stuff like that. So we kind of had like this competition to like get better grades. Yeah. So she was a year younger, but still like she really did push me just naturally to get better grades. And I think like, there's so much on both ways of like what a guy should do, if he should be committed, if he shouldn't. But like looking back, like that was the best thing for me, because it just kept me grounded, kept me out of trouble. Because when we were hanging out, I was doing homework, or like studying, because I couldn't get a C if she was getting A's. Like she was getting straight A's, so like I couldn't get a C. So like I kind of had that like.
It was cool. Yeah. No.
Exactly.
It's cool. Yeah.
And so like I was able to beast on that, and I used to walk. I remember like because I wasn't doing basketball that season. After school, I'd walk to Barnes & Noble, and I would they'd have all their books there, and I would go to the coffee shop, and I didn't want to ask my mom for money, because, I knew that she was very frugal with the money, or at least, very cognizant of where she spent it, so I would, go to the coffee shop after school and just, read the SAT subject books or the AP and study. And, yeah, so, I was just locked in. But, I was still having a great time when I wasn't. Once I did what I had to do, people always make fun of me because, I would go to the library at lunch and I would study, and it was just
it sounds like you just didn't give a fuck. I think that's so hard, right? I'm trying to think of my high school. I think I did that junior, senior year. I had this period of time where I just had probably the most anxiety I ever had. I was smoking way too much. I just kind of got into that. But long story short, I just remember I would go to the library and try to make music and shit. But I even felt the kids who were making music, I didn't fit in with that. I just felt there was a certain point where it was no matter what you do, someone thinks you're not cool, and then you have to get over that hurdle and be oh, this is good, because what do I think about it? But
my parents are very, like I said, outspoken, transparent, honest people. And when it comes to, when I say honest, I mean
They'll tell you how it is.
I'm sorry?
They'll tell you how it is.
I'll tell you how it is. And so, I think anybody who knows me knows I'm the same way. And so in high school, like, even though, like, I had my boys, I had the girl I was dating and stuff like that, but they knew what my stakes were because I was very open about that. They knew.
What do you mean what your stakes were?
They knew they knew that I wasn't getting good grades just so I could show everybody I was getting good grades and be like a goody two-shoes like nerd. They knew that I was getting good grades because I needed to make it out of my situation and be an example for my family, or at least change the trajectory of my last name. Like, they all knew that in high school. My friends have known that about me since then. They know my motivation because I was always very clear about it, so that they couldn't weaponize my drive against me, or like try to make me feel bad for it. Because they knew bro, like,
that to me is like a real friend, where it's
exactly.
like, I see you, keep going, like, hey bro, what are you doing not in the library?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
they didn't do that. They still try to get me out of it.
For sure, but I mean, you're still teenagers,
yeah.
But like, even that to me is like dope, where it's not
Yeah.
like, what are you doing in the library at lunch? Like, it's like,
yeah, I got some of that, but unfortunately, the people that really meant it are the ones that are like now telling me, man,
for sure.
I should have been in there with you. You know what I mean?
Because they didn't see it. There's no vision, right? Like,
yeah.
part of you having, I feel like that kind of hit me around sophomore, junior year. I remember being on the baseball field. I'm like, doing JV, and I'm like, or sophomore year. I'm like, I'm not going. I didn't care enough about grades to work hard in grades, and I guess my circumstances didn't give me that fire to like need to change them.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't have something to fall back on. It's not like I had like, oh, I'm gonna go work at my dad's. My parents both did real estate. Like, there was only food on the table if they sold houses type shit.
Sure.
Like, but I say that to say my dad didn't have some big accounting firm I could just go work for and just slide me in, or some big real estate company or whatever. It was like, no, they were just like residential real estate agents.
Yeah.
But
and I think
I also didn't want to do school, so it's like, it's interesting. Around that time, you kind of realize like, where am I going with what I'm doing?
Yeah, and I just think the realm of possibilities that you're exposed to living in proximity to LA. Like, I talk to
For sure.
Paulo and Zay about this pretty often.
Being in New York.
Like, you've seen it all. You've seen the lowest of the low make it up here, and vice versa. So like, you know what's at stake. In Tucson, growing up in the late 90s, early 2000s, into the 2010s, bro, people, like, you just don't have those examples, especially in my family, in my neighborhood. You just do not have those examples. And so that's why it was almost like, all right, school it is.
No, it makes sense.
Yeah. And then creatively, like, I really wasn't doing anything until my junior year. Okay. There was a slam poetry contest that I went hard for, and we won. Or we got second place, some girl beat us. I did it with a friend from middle school, like my good friend from middle school. And we actually did a poem around my homie, I don't want to say friend because I don't want to mischaracterize, but like my homie from the surrounding class that got killed. Like, because that was a story that people at high school just didn't know about.
Oh, okay.
So.
Right, different schools, it makes sense.
Yeah, just like middle school was here in the south side, and then 35 minutes away is this high school next to U of A. It's like completely different environments. And so
the girl was she in that honors class?
Who?
The girl from the bio class, was she in that AP chemistry class?
No. It's actually unfortunate because I know a lot of people I went to high school with who did really well in school. Like, you know, they showed up every day, they did their work, they got good grades, they got high test scores, but they still didn't have the option, or they had the option to go to Ivy League type schools or like the Dukes, the Stanfords, but they were unable to do so, or they felt that it was an uphill battle because the combined income of their parents was too high for financial aid, but too low to actually like afford to pay out of pocket. And so they would have to take like $100K in private loans, $150K in private loans. So
you think U of A is a better move than Duke with $100K loans? I think again, or a year, I guess, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna keep going back to people have to hold themselves accountable for what they want and the path they take to try to get what they want. So if you plan on working like 80K job, 100K job, out of college, or med school, law school, etc., I think you should go to undergrad and kill it in terms of classes and extracurriculars, as long as you're getting good bang for your buck, so you're not going into massive debt. Because then that just gives you an option to go to a post-grad program, so like an MBA program, a law program, a med school program, where you'll have a better chance of getting into a place like Duke or Harvard or something like that, type of grad school, and just be set up after that. Whereas unless you're trying to go into consulting or Wall Street, where there are these private networks where the Duke brand, Stanford brand, Harvard brand matters in order to get you in those circles, like hedge funds, private equity, venture capital. If that's your long game, then you have to be okay with taking that 150K in debt, because you know that you're planning on making ends or possibly billions if you plan on getting into like, you know, startup culture and having a great idea. But you have to hold yourself accountable.
You don't know that at 17.
You don't? Then take the cheapest route. That's what I would say.
So, okay, like, what would you say to a kid on the south side of Tucson now, knowing what you know what I mean, with the circumstances that you were in, good and bad?
I would say it's looking back.
And then also, what would you tell yourself, like, what advice would you have given yourself in high school? Or do you feel like you had self-awareness at that time to kind of just, you're happy with?
The advice I would give somebody coming from the south side of Tucson now is showing up is half the battle. And so I know things are gonna happen. I know, you know, parents are gonna be tripping, cousins are gonna be tripping, family situations, environment, all that. But if you can show up and do your work and turn it in, that's half the battle. Because especially in Tucson, like, the school system is really not like this esoteric thing that's hard to accomplish. Like, you have to show up and pay attention and actually understand the long-term goal. Because what you want at 17, and I say this to my sister all the time. She's 15 now. She's in high school. You just want options. My 6th grade teacher told me the same thing. You just want options.
Right.
You want to be able to have the option to go to college or become a real estate agent or start a business or sit on your butt. Like, you want that option.
Yeah.
Whereas otherwise you're gonna have to climb from behind or climb from being down if you like waste the opportunity. You're already having to go to school. You might as well give it your all. You're already having to spend that time there.
Yeah.
You might as well.
Sure.
That's the way I see it. It's like, then that's just how I approach everything. If I'm gonna be in the studio, I'm gonna be locked in.
Right.
If I'm gonna be at work, like in front of my computer, I'm gonna be locked in.
Yeah, I love the sessions too, because I think sometimes, like, I mean, Bungalow is 4 people, so it's like you move as one, but like ultimately it's like, and there's a lot of, it's cool to watch you guys work, because there's a lot of not a need to verbally communicate things, because you have such a flow and it's like the Beatles, right? Like, the Beatles just did gigs for, you read Outliers, Malcolm Gladwell, right? Like, they just did the gigs, and then finally when they decided to make their own shit, it was like, yeah, well, we know how to work together. We've done this for 10,000 hours.
Exactly.
So it's cool to watch you guys work. That being said, everyone has their own approach as an individual person.
Yeah.
But I do feel like when you're there, you're not checking the Twitter feeds, or like sometimes if the game's on, I feel like. But even that, you use that as, you're quick to like, we're not watching the game right now. You know what I mean? It's not as a distraction. It's as a, I guess, more of like which distractions I guess can be good. So
it's supplemental. It's almost like the reason we like having it on outside for entertainment is also because these are the best of the best. Like, we have that in the environment and in the space, and they're a part of the culture as well. Like, this is influencing the energy we have attacking this record, this music. Yeah. At least it is for me, and I know I've talked about that with the guys too.
I like that. I never thought about that.
So.
Okay, so then you end up at Duke. Walk me through junior year to Duke, and then what you said about Duke with regards to like what you felt you neglected in high school, that you leaned into being in college, and then how kind of musical they came to the picture.
Yeah. This is why it's important to write down goals in the short term in the medium term, and the long term.
Hmm.
My long-term goal, since I was conscious of it as a 5-year-old, was to make it to college.
Okay.
Once I scratched that off, I didn't have the internal validation anymore as an 18-year-old, 19-year-old. Once I got to Duke, and I made it to a top 10 school in the country, out of the South Side, I lost my internal motivation. Because up until that point, for 13 years,
I made it.
I made it. I was done. I wasn't working to become a lawyer.
Right.
I had another 8 years to go. It was that I needed to get to this top 10 university out of this situation. I was going to do everything in my power to make it happen. And once I got there, the academic career focus just completely went out the window. So, and because I had made so many sacrifices in terms of not drinking, not smoking, not partying, not having that social life up until that point, I think that's why I completely overcorrected and over-indexed into that part of Duke. Because, I just didn't have of course, like while I'm 18, 19, I'm thinking like, again, it's that assumption that I had in high school my freshman year where I was like, as long as I finish, I'll get into a good school. My freshman year, as long as I finish, I'm going to get a high-paying job. I didn't know anything about, going to work at a private firm or work in the government. Yeah. And again, like I had this lofty goal of, working in government, becoming a lawyer, helping my community, and that was stemming from the propaganda that a lot of us get growing up in the education system of, these are the rules, and as long as you follow these rules, this is how the government works, and if you show up and you're a good person, you'll be able to change your community immediately.
Sure.
I went and interned on the Hill between my junior and senior year of college for nothing. Like I did not get paid at all, public servant intern, and I just realized how much money and lobbying and handshakes, private clubs, all of that affected our actual policies and how that trickled down into like my community. So I realized, okay, I need to make money. And so I didn't have that realization until my senior year is what I'm getting at. And so up until that point, I think just being honest, like, I was a student athlete my freshman year. I walked onto the track team. And so it's funny because...
Were you doing track in high school?
Yeah, so I was... we even talked about that.
Well, because you said varsity junior year.
Yeah. So my junior year, I didn't play basketball during the season, and so I'm focusing on school. And one of these days after school, in high school,
You didn't play during the season at all? Junior year?
My junior year, no, I didn't play basketball.
So you just benched the whole season?
No, I didn't play basketball.
Junior year?
My junior year.
Okay.
So
you got dropped JV, you got...
After that game happened, where I scored 16 points in the summer, and I got benched after that, in the summer, I said, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, it's clearly bigger than basketball. It's politics.
Okay.
I'm not doing this. I'm focusing, because I had gone to UCLA tour.
Gotcha. So you're like, just school, fuck that.
Just school.
Yeah.
So this is going into my junior year. So my junior year of high school, we have 8-foot or 9-foot rims and like outside. And I'm waiting for my mom to pick me up, and I'm playing dunk ball with my friends. So I had a lot of athleticism from doing these workouts with my dad for basketball, and I was doing these dunks, and then the track coach walks by, and he's like, I can, he's seen me dunk and stuff like that on these smaller rims, like doing crazy stuff. He's like, according to your calf to ankle ratio, I think you'd be a great long jumper. And like, so that thought entered my mind. And so I showed up and I did a few running workouts, didn't like it, but they kind of told me that I could just show up and long jump. Like I didn't have to go through the pain of running workouts. Yeah. And so it just opened up a new world to me, because this was like an individual sport where there are actual tangible results that like nobody's...
No politics. They're not
doing
no
politics.
Yeah.
It's like you either
jump this far or you don't.
Yeah, you're either top 4 fastest for the relay team or you're not.
Right.
Right. So
to your point, I see.
Yeah. So then I was like, this is cool. Like I'm gonna do it. And then I think the second meet that I did triple jump, and crazy enough, it was like the furthest I jumped that season. Like the first meet, not knowing anything, and I got a medal. So then to me, I was like, I'm actually nice at this, like just naturally. But it was because I had trained in basketball, and to be fair, the meet we went to was like average competition. But still, the fact that I got a medal, I was just like, yo, this is dope. Like, let me keep working. And then this actually is super important too, because my junior year finished, and I just started to, I didn't do like anything between the summer between junior and senior year. Oh, actually I did. I went to a program at Wharton Business School at UPenn. I got a scholarship to go do that. It was a sports business program. And
this is high school stuff.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's taboo, you can take this out, but it's actually the first time I met like Jewish people.
Okay.
Like, and I say that because it's out of like respect of just like community.
Yeah.
And also like
at Wharton?
Huh?
At Wharton?
Yeah, like other kids that were in the program with me. Like, it was the community aspect, and then also like, I'm not gonna lie, bro, it just seemed like they knew a lot more about the real world than other kids in our program, especially because there were a couple of us from like inner city. And so like, I actually became cool with like, some of the guys there, and they just put me onto a lot of game when it came to college admissions, when it came to, like, I didn't even know where Duke was at this point. Like, a lot of these schools, I didn't know where they were. Like, I flew to Philadelphia and went to Wharton, but like, I didn't know the prestige of Wharton outside of the fact that it's an Ivy League school. Like, I didn't really understand the implications that came with going to a Wharton school until after I went to Duke even. You know what I mean? And so like, I just started to understand, like...
How'd you find out about that? Just from high school?
Bro, this is what's crazy about life, is that, and again, you look back and it connects.
Yeah.
That 7 a.m. class that I chose to be in, I ended up getting cool with the professor, or the teacher. He used to kind of, like, people would go during lunchtime, because he was just cool, he was funny. At lunchtime, people would go and just kick it in there. And those were like kind of like I would say the top performers, like the nerds or the nerds. And so sometimes I would go in there just to like, again, either soak up game, or if I had a question I could ask an upperclassman, because I was a sophomore at the time. Then I was a junior, and I would like go and ask the seniors questions just to like they're my resource, you know? Or just like because I was cool with them. A guy offhand started talking about this scholarship program. And I was like, oh, wait, what's that? It's for seniors applying to college. But then I went and looked into it, and I saw that they had a program for juniors going into senior year for the summer. So I applied for it, and I got it. And then, they gave me...
That's just like a testament, right? It's like you said, your environment. Or you could have been hanging out with...
Sleeping in.
You could have been ditching lunch, sleeping in. You could have been ditching lunch and going out to restaurants, or, you know what I mean? You could have been hanging out with, like, there's so many other things you could have been doing, but, like, you were proactive enough to be at the right place, right time, like, right? You had,
bro. And, like,
being around the right people led to an opportunity you couldn't have intended to get, right? Like,
because I chose to bust my ass the year before and end up getting cool with that teacher, because I was waking up by choice to go to the 7 a.m. start time. Yeah. Like, I didn't have to do that, but because I did that, it led to that interaction. It's the universe rewarded me. And so I went, and like I said, like, I learned a lot about deals, so like the actual content of the class, like deal flow.
So you got a scholarship to go out there and do an internship out there?
It wasn't an internship, it was like a program for a month.
In summer, between junior and
July. It was like all of July. And yeah, I was there. You good?
Yeah, I just want to check the I just want to check the time because I'm supposed to jump in on something at 6, but I might ask if I can push it back.
So yeah, I learned about like... No, I learned about community, I learned about deal flow in the program.
Were you being paid? Were you working? What was it?
No, you just show it. It's like a class. It's like a college class.
Interesting.
It's a 3.5 week program. And then you like come up with a business plan at the end of it. And so like we got to go to like the Eagle Stadium, and like, it was like professors at the Wharton School combined with like another guy that used to work at the NFL and stuff like that, who ended up becoming my fraternity brother down the road from Duke. It was so crazy.
Wow.
But it was that type of program where it was just like people were talking about business.
That exposed you to like, you're like, this is the echelon I want to be at.
Yes.
Whereas however many
we had to wear suits to class. It was like that. It was like that.
And there's also a feeling of none of these other kids are doing this from my high school.
Exactly.
Like, I know how they're spending their summers.
And I'm on my own. I didn't travel when I was growing up, so I'm on my own in Philadelphia, making my own decision. Of course, they're chaperones. Of course, they're college students that are the RAs, but like, you have a little bit of freedom.
Yeah.
And bro, I do not want to underestimate, like, the game I got from everybody in the program, you know what I mean? Like, and just having a completely different set of cultures, because it wasn't just like, you know, like Jewish kids I had never met before. It was also like black students from Baltimore, from like Houston. Like, it was also like white kids from the Midwest. Like, I'd never been exposed to any of that outside of TV.
Right.
So like that even shifted my vantage point when I got back my senior year of just like, there's more than what I'm seeing in Tucson, Arizona.
Yeah.
It was important, bro. It was pivotal. And so that's why I was just like, oh yeah, like, time to. And I'm sure that was part of the reason I was able to get into Duke, because they saw that I was able to.
On your resume.
Yeah, I had that on my resume. And I did a program at Cornell the week after.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. An economics program that my mom, she ended up, again, I don't know where she got the money, but she was able to like help me go to that program.
Damn, so that's summer you're applying to schools, you have a Cornell thing and
exactly.
That's dope.
And all those AP classes. I was my story was I was a comeback kid against.
No, it's a great essay.
You know? Yeah, exactly. So
then you're doing track till you graduate high school?
Yeah, and that's what I was saying earlier before we started, was that my senior year, first semester, you know, track's a spring sport. So first semester, I'm training with the track coach, who's also the football coach. Like, I'm training, like, doing drills. When nobody, it's like me and a girl and like one other person maybe. I think it was like me and two other girls consistently showing up in the off season, preparing, right? And like I said,
why not keep doing basketball? Like, you just felt you just were
politics. Yeah, it was true. And they weren't good, so it wasn't even worth, like, it was politics. People on the team, like, I had a couple homies, but like I really didn't.
How do you? Because I feel like being an only child, navigating that politics, like, how do you feel like you navigate operating within a group? Or do you feel like there's no, like, it's still smooth? Like, working with other people, like, you know what I'm saying?
Bungalow or in general?
Yeah.
Bungalow or in general?
Bungalow, yeah.
Oh, Bungalow, I feel like I learned a lot of lessons with the way my chapter and fraternity operated at Duke. I went through a lot of growing pains.
Okay.
With that, and so I think that it led me to have a lot more patience.
But you go faster along, further together.
Yeah, that's part of it. I think more so what it was because I never held my tongue growing up. I didn't have.
Which could rub people the wrong way if they don't know you like that.
Not only that, but because I didn't grow up with siblings, I didn't have immediate ramifications for saying something. Yeah. And
your cousins were older, so it wasn't like you're gonna talk to your aunt, whatever. Like, you see it, like, you're not gonna disrespect.
Exactly.
Right.
Like, so when I got to college, and it's a fraternity aspect where everybody's like brothers, and you say something, like, everybody has a different personality reaction. Some people are more sensitive than others, and vice versa. So like, that's where I said, like, I learned that. So now, like, Bungalow, it's like, it's the same thing. It's,
right. That makes sense.
Everybody has triggers. Everybody has different, you know, working love languages.
Yeah.
So just like understanding what motivates. One thing that I learned, I forgot which book it is, but one thing that Patrick Bet-David said.
How's it? Are you reading this book? You finished it?
Not yet. But one thing that he's talking about is like, don't try to motivate people. Learn how to motivate the person, because everybody's different. And I think a lot of times people think that it's just blanket statements like, oh, this motivates the human mind. Right. It's like, no, like, everybody's a product of their environment. Right. So like, you got to find out what makes people tick and what makes people motivated to do something in your favor.
Yeah.
So my senior year, like, again, it was just the track, like, output equals input.
So then you get to Duke, you walk on, and then you kind of flip your approach.
Yeah, but I was
like chilling, right? And then how do you kind of go from that to back on to like, to picking what you want to do, right? Like, you said you had the internship on Capitol Hill, it's junior year of college.
Yeah. What's funny is what I was saying about the track thing, my freshman year, is that everybody that's an athlete, for whatever reason, that freshman year, everybody that was an athlete, walk on, scholarship, whatever, if you're a student athlete at Duke, you got a blue backpack. First week of class. So
instantly, people are looking at you, whether you're a football team or you're running track.
instantly. So like that was the social credibility that I got almost immediately from, and then it's not even like in a sexual marketplace where you're dating.
No, but it's not nothing.
Like, right.
You're not coming in with zero.
Especially when you're in an environment with a bunch of brainiacs, because like.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
Especially because I walked on, so like, it is what it is. Like, I was able to compete in the classroom, but then also they saw I was an athlete, so like they're kind of not really understanding, because I know a lot of times the typical stereotype of an athlete is they can't get by in schools, let alone at like a top 10 university. So yeah, so I think I was fortunate to have that experience right away.
Did you do that all 4 years?
No. So once I joined the fraternity, I stopped running track. It was like almost like
that was freshman year.
Sophomore year, I joined the fraternity. So
that had a big impact on you too. It sounds like.
Yeah. Freshman year, my best friend's name is Glenn. He was also on the track team, also walked on. So we were like inseparable freshman year. Neither of us drank, smoked, none of that. Because we were on the track team, we took it seriously. And but the funny thing is, like, we go to class, we go to practice, so like running practice or like jumps practice, and then we all would weightlift, the whole team would weightlift right after the running practice. So we get out like 6:30, and then we go to the lunch hall, the dining hall, and I'm pretty sure they closed at 9 p.m. So we would literally stay in there until 9 p.m. just meeting people, just like BSing. We were 9 p.m. Then we would leave that and go to the gym and play basketball till 11 p.m. even though we weren't supposed to because we were on the track team. We didn't do a lick of homework, bro. Like, when I say that, I think both of us were just enjoying the fruits of our labor, of busting our butt in high school, and like now we're getting attention as athletes on campus. Yeah, and especially like, we were spending most of our time in the black community, so like even then, that's you get extra points probably for being an student athlete and stuff like that. So we were enjoying all that, and then sophomore year I joined the fraternity, and I had my older bros who I'm still super close to. I just saw them on Sunday. They had a good balance of work hard, play hard, where they were very accomplished academically, but they would have a good time as well. And everybody like knew that about us. Like, we wanted to have a good time. The problem was that when we weren't having a good time, I was not taking that time
to do good academically.
To do well academically. I was using it to talk to girls, or I was using it to be on YouTube, or...
So when did that switch come from?
After I graduated college. Did
you have a job lined up from Duke?
Bro, so I graduated, again, I thought I was just going to apply to law school, thinking,
So even after the Capitol Hill internship, you're still like, I'm going to do law?
No, I'm saying up until that point. So then I come back senior year, and like a lot of people they had just finished their junior internship, working on Wall Street. You do the internship, and 9 times out of 10, as long as you don't mess up, you're getting the return offer as full employment. I didn't have anything lined up, so I was applying, finance jobs, because I had already learned that money moves this country. So I'm applying for finance jobs, nothing bites. And I find out about this program at UVA. That's a 1-year program. That's kind of like a transition.
UVA?
University of Virginia.
Okay.
It's like a transition program where...
You didn't meet... No, Arshad's from Virginia.
No, I met him...
At Duke?
Yeah, at Duke. He's a year younger. So I'm at Duke. My senior year, I'm like cleaning up my resume. And I find this program. I'm like, oh, this is a bet. Like, sure shot. Like, I just got to do this test, this math test, and GMAT. And apply, and I talked to the recruiter. She's like reassuring me, like, it should be fine. Like, I'll do this program, and then that was help set me up for a high-paying job after I finish this master's program. So I ended up graduating, and when I tell you, like, again, the internal validation of finishing in 4 years superseded the fact that I didn't have a job yet.
Right.
So I graduate.
Because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, and I go to Miami. With the girl I'm talking to at the time, dating at the time. And I wake up one day and I'm just like, let me apply to 20 jobs. Like, I was part of this listserv. And I hadn't heard back from UVA yet.
This is for a master's program? At UVA.
Yeah, but I hadn't heard back from them whether or not I got accepted, but I thought I was a sure-in. So I applied to these 20 jobs. I ended up going and taking the GMAT for that UVA program because that was the last part of the application. When I get out and turn my phone back on, I have a friend message me saying, hey, just so you know, like somebody reached out to me about this job you applied to, and like I gave them good words on your behalf. You put
them as a rec?
No. They just happened to
crazy.
Yeah, know the people who worked there, interned, just knew the person that's on my resume. And the extent of our interactions came from an education class. This guy is one of the smartest people I've ever met.
He wasn't in the fraternity or anything?
No.
Okay.
He's just in a class I took on an education 101 class he was in.
Like freshman year or some shit?
I don't remember what year it was. It might have been my junior year because he's a year older than me.
Okay.
This was a guy that you did not challenge because he was going to come with the facts and he was going to eviscerate you in the debate.
IQ at 3,000.
Yeah. There was one thing that I just wasn't sitting right with me that he was arguing for. I'm sure it had to do with education policy in certain neighborhoods. What?
And when is this?
That junior year at Duke.
That you're having this debate with him?
Yeah.
Gotcha. You're using this as an example to show that you don't go against him.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
So I speak up and like we go back and forth, and I don't know. I personally think might have just like gained a little bit of respect in his book, and he was, and then, we had mutual friends and stuff too, so I'm sure that helped. But yeah, he gave me a good, thumbs up review to the employer, and things worked out. Like I had an opportunity to work on 2016 presidential campaign, and yeah, I just got to a point where after that campaign was done and I got my first bonus, I was not fulfilled. Like, again, the external validation was like, you need money, you need status, you need a job, you need so this is the first time I've ever had money in my life, and I have this like 5-figure deposit in my account.
As just a bonus?
As a bonus.
Damn. For
a first year. I hadn't even been there a year.
That's crazy.
And I'm just like, now what? And I go
Why
back.
do you feel you weren't fulfilled by the money?
Because I was good. I had a roof because my mom did a good job, and even my dad, but because I grew up with my mom did a good job of like stressing the values that we have in our household, which is like, you work hard so that you can have a stress-free environment with a roof over your head, food on the table, and you're able to experience things with your loved ones. So because of that...
Live life to the fullest.
Yes. And so because of that, when I had the check, like I already had a nice spot. I was able, without the check, so like even though I was living check to check with my salary, my bonus was crazy in comparison to my salary at the time. But I still had a nice... Like I was sharing a condo with somebody. It was nice in DC. I could buy what I wanted and buy what I wanted in terms of food. Like I wasn't food insecure anymore.
Got it.
I didn't have a car, so I didn't need a car. I didn't care about a car, and
you were good.
I was
like
good,
more than
bro.
You needed. You're like,
yeah, like I was single by this point. Like I was, I had flings here and there, but I wasn't looking for anything serious. So, like all those check boxes were there, but there was something missing, and it was the passion, it was the creativity. It was like like I said, I grew up on 90s sitcoms and music, and that's one thing that I think we didn't talk about middle school and high school, was a lot of my identity was tied to me listening to hip-hop music and watching music videos, and then the reciprocal was a lot of what they were doing and talking about, like J. Cole, Drake, really those two. That was my playlist in high school. Like, and Nipsey towards the latter half of high school. Those three, I grew up on Tupac, and then I found on my own like Wayne, Drake, J. Cole, Nipsey. They were serving as motivation in the times when I was like, man, I have all this work to do for school. How the hell am I gonna? Right. It's like, no, you gotta believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. Yeah. Believe in yourself.
Sure.
And that's why
too high, you aim too low.
Exactly. So because of that, like, I was like, man, it'd be dope. And I was doing slam poetry, and I got the response. Like, so this is all building up.
Oh, in high school, you're saying? Yeah.
In high school, this is all building up. College, I used to do step shows with the fraternity. Again, reactions, people praising me.
Right.
And then also providing entertainment. And then even it got to a point where we were so good that people hated us for it. And I loved every part of it.
Right.
Because, like, you couldn't tell us shit about it because you knew that we could. Like, they got to a point where people didn't even want to compete because they knew we were coming.
Damn.
They didn't even want to compete.
Was it like a dance-off kind of thing?
It's like a...
Damn.
That type of thing. But it's like, there's a storyline, there's acting involved, there's performance. Like, we have it on YouTube, so I'll show you because you probably just want to check it out. But it got to a point, because the thing is, like, in order to have that good of a show, we were having step practice at 5 a.m., 5:30 a.m. And, you know, like, nobody in college wants to do that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like most people do the fucking bare minimum unless there's a typically financial reward. Like, they don't see the rewards. And, like, I did haunted houses in high school. Like, granted, it was in my mom's backyard, but, like, I was willing to work on it until 6 p.m. Halloween night when people were, like, trick-or-treating. Because I realized, like, I had so much fulfillment in doing the thing. And it's like, I had friends helping that were scare actors and shit, but I also realized, like, no one's gonna do this but me. And it's so hard to find those people who are willing, like, like, I was on JV baseball and I was getting up, I had one of the varsity players pick me up to do 0 period runs around the track. Yeah. I just like the energy of, like, I just like that challenge, I feel Same. But it's hard to find people like that.
For sure.
You know what I mean? Especially that have that congruent vision of like, y'all walking the same path, essentially. Yeah. It's hard to find people like that are willing to get up at 5:30 to do step when it's like, all right, dude, we could, you know what I mean? There's so many other things you could be doing.
Well, I think a big part of it is, like, the type of it's self-selective, the type of person that goes to Duke, and then the type of person that chooses. Like, our fraternity is Alpha Phi Alpha. We are the first black fraternity to exist in, like, 1906. There are 8 others that came after us. And so, like, the same decision that you make to join something called Alpha first, Alpha Phi Alpha, and the standards that it has, that decision making is the same. It has a lot of overlap with the same type of person that's made it to Duke. Right. That also is the same type of person that is willing to wake up at 5:30 for a show in a couple of months, so that
how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Exactly. And so that helped. And, you know, like I said, there was before, like, when I joined, very work hard, play hard. So, like, we had a good time as well. Like, it wasn't like it was like, oh, yeah, come on, brothers, let's go to class and we're gonna win the step show. Like, nah, we was also, like, throwing the best parties. We were, of course, the dating scene was what it was. Like, you know, it was balanced. There was harmony, and so
then music.
Yeah, so, you know, fast forward to me getting the bonus, and funny enough, I'm out also, weekend coming up, but, like, or at least part 1, I was also still before I had even gotten the job, when I was still at Duke, I had gotten a stipend for an LSAT class. They provide stipends for you to take an LSAT even after you graduate. Okay. So I was taking an LSAT class in DC while I'm working as well, right? Like, after the campaign finished. So I'm taking this LSAT class, and I'm just like, man, why am I even doing this? I don't want to be a lawyer. My older fraternity brothers that are lawyers are telling me, doesn't sound like you want to be a lawyer. Like, I actually do this, and you don't have reasons outside of, you saw it on TV, high paying job, your dad's telling you to be a lawyer, even though he ain't go to college. Like, you don't have actual reasons to do it. You don't have the internal motivation to be a lawyer. So I'm thinking about this as I'm doing these LSAT classes, because I could be doing anything else. And to save money, I didn't take the metro. I would walk everywhere because of where I was living. And so I was walking from the LSAT class, like, over a mile, walking from the LSAT class back to my my condo, and halfway, so it's like the point where you can't turn around because you're just as far from your condo as you are. It starts pouring, bro. Damn. Storming. I took that as a sign. I stopped going outside.
You didn't want it that bad.
it was I didn't want, not only that I didn't want it that bad, but like
well,
God,
which
like,
is good.
The
right?
universe is telling me you're right. Like this ain't for you, bro. Here's a sign. You hate the rain. I'm taking that as a sign. And so a week or two after that, I'm listening to J. Cole's thinking about slam poetry again, like getting that feeling back, because I've been performing in college as well. I hear about this open mic for that poets go to, Us Boys and Poets in DC, and I'm listening to Be Free. Remember when he performed it on David Letterman?
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, I'm gonna write something like this. Like, I need to get some stuff off my chest. This is also like around, you obviously know who won in 2016, and like it's to the point where like white supremacists are acting it out, and it's just like, bro, I'm trying to get some stuff off my chest. 'Cause I have an opinion on politics too. And so I'm writing this poem, and then I end up going to YouTube and finding a tight beat. I'm like, man, I'm gonna write a song. I end up writing a song about this situationship I had at the time, and I ended up going and performing it, and it was terrible, but I loved every second of it. I knew it was bad, but I
You knew it was bad because you had taste in J. Cole and Drake, and
Yeah.
you compared to J. Cole and Drake wasn't it. But you knew that based off how you worked at all these other things, sports and academics, that if you kept showing up, you could eventually get there based off of your getting into Duke from the South Side, getting it right.
And so I love the challenge, and I love the feeling of, and like people still did give me praise for, it's a very supportive
Showing
community.
up,
Supportive community, but when I still can't, I couldn't watch it back then, I still can't watch the footage now, it's just cringy. And it's cool though, like, and so I was like, here we go. Like, this is what I've always wanted to make music, and I've always wanted to write a sitcom. Let's go. Like, I've done everything. I became a Division I athlete in less than 2 years. I got to Duke. I got a crazy bonus. I live in a condo in DC.
Yeah.
I got to work on the presidential campaign. I have 5-step show title. Like I literally anything I wanted to do. My goal might have updated along the path, but like I've always kind of garnered that type of response from the universe when I'm willing to make this. Because it's not just putting the work; it's making the sacrifices as well. I think sacrificing your vices is very important for the higher ups.
I like that. Boom.
Yeah.
And we'll pick up with the next chapter on this next one.
Let's get it.
Oh yeah. Appreciate it.
It is funny though because it's funny because like up until this point it's like corporate
Yeah.
Marcus.
No, yeah.